The highest observation point in the state, it overlooks scenes of unbelievable beauty.
From the top of the Florida Citrus Tower in the 1950s, the views stretched for miles. A green quilt of groves, orange trees, grapefruit, stretching in every direction. Stand there today, and what you see is not green, but gray. Streets, rooftops, parking lots. The tower is unchanged, but the world around it is unrecognizable. And that tension, that story of a place caught between what it was and what it's becoming, is Clermont, a town where on a Sunday you can trace the past, watch the present unfold, and catch a glimpse of its future, all in a single day. It starts, as these things often do, with a walk downtown Clermont Sunday morning. The streets are lined with vendors setting up tents, baskets of produce, jars of honey, hand-poured candles, and the steady hum of the Clermont Farmers Market.
Sorry? The flavor? It's caramel. Caramel, yes. But it's handmade. My company name is Sharon's Dutch Bakery. I'm from the Netherlands, and I bring stroopwafels and Dutch apple pie here to the Clermont market at this point. I make everything from scratch. The stroopwafels are made from scratch. The syrup that's inside is made from scratch. So it gets not more authentic than it can get right here.
What strikes you first isn't just the variety, it's the rhythm. Every Sunday, week after week, Clermont sets out its table and invites its people to gather. In a town where the population has surged in the last decade by tens of thousands, spilling outward from Orlando, this ritual acts as a ballast. A reminder, yes, things are changing, but here, in the shade of downtown's trees, the old pattern continues.
I make most of what's in this shop. I offer almost 200 different magnetic bookmarks, traditional bookmarks, stickers, books, obviously, t-shirts, keychains, earrings, all sorts of fun bookish stuff.
I spoke with Teresa Sherman, who owns the mobile bookshop Mushroom and Me. She told me this is how Clermont defines itself, not just in the new subdivisions and shiny developments, but in the small, deliberate act of gathering together.
I think it's important for the community to come out and support small businesses like us and everybody else that comes out on a Sunday. We are passionate about our businesses. I love my little trailer, and I think it's important because it's the community come together.
From downtown, it's a short walk toward the Clermont Historic Village. These little buildings aren't where they once stood. Each was moved here, preserved, arranged like a time capsule on the edge of Lake Mineola. The Kern House is one of the oldest, built in the 1880s by a pioneering family that arrived when Clermont was little more than pine forest and lakeshore. Step inside and the scale of the rooms tell the story. Narrow hallways, simple furniture, a family living lean but stable in Florida's interior before the boom. Then there's the Townsend House, modest in size but extraordinary in meaning. It was home to James and Sally Townsend, African-American educators who came to Clermont in 1887. They not only raised a family here, but founded one of the first schools for black children in Lake County. The house preserved today isn't just wood and nails. It's a testament to persistence, to the fact that education was valued here even in the face of segregation and struggle. Nearby sits a small train depot. It looks almost toy-like now, but when the Atlantic coastline ran through here in the early 20th century, it was the town's lifeline. Groceries, mail, passengers, all came and went from this little stop. Rail was how the citrus of Clermont reached the nation, how the oranges grown in Lake County ended up on breakfast tables in Chicago or New York. Without that depot, Clermont's groves would never have been more than local harvests. And the little churches, plain white, wood-framed, remind you that Clermont settlers, like so many in Central Florida, anchored their communities first in faith. Sunday gatherings weren't just religious, they were civic. They bound people together when the town was still finding its footing. Today, all of these structures sit side by side, gathered along the lakeshore. And just across the way, you see Victory Point, Modern, engineered, forward-looking. That juxtaposition is deliberate. Clermont has taken its past, compacted it into a single block, and placed it where everyone can see it, in contrast to what the city is building now. Stand there long enough and you realize this isn't nostalgia for its own sake. It's Clermont saying we came from here, and while we've built subdivisions and stormwater parks and strip malls, this is still where it all started. That juxtaposition is Clermont in a single frame. By midday, the heat demands lemonade. Ours came from Main Squeeze, a spot that knows how to take a simple drink and make it into a small event. But what we actually discovered there wasn't just lemonade. It was the soft serve ice cream float, the best we've ever had. Cold, tart lemonade cut with that creamy swirl of pineapple soft serve. And let me say this, it puts to shame that thing the Mouse House calls a whip. Famous, sure, marketed within an inch of its life, but in practice, overhyped. This little Clermont shop outdoes it without even trying. A couple doors down from Main Squeeze is everything local. Lake County home goods, soaps, crafts, all packed into one storefront. Across the street, Teamont Boba serves as our afternoon pick-me-up, proof that this town's growth can still make space for small, cheerful, locally run places. And then just steps away, the downtown exchange. Inside, Triangle Vinyl, flipping through crates of albums alongside a collection of other independent vendors under one roof. And if you wander a few blocks over, you'll find Sunshine Book Company, Clermont's independent bookstore stacked high with pages that remind you there's still value in slowing down. Clermont's most famous landmark still looms, the Florida Citrus Tower. Built in the mid-1950s at the peak of Florida's citrus boom, the tower was a kind of shrine, not just to oranges and grapefruits, but to the whole idea of Florida as abundance. Rising just shy of 230 feet, its observation deck opened a panoramic view over what was then the second largest citrus-producing region in the world. At the time, more than 17 million citrus trees spread across Lake, Orange, Polk, and surrounding counties. When the tower opened, visitors rode a high-speed elevator to the top, and from there, on a clear day, you could see groves stretching 20 miles in every direction. Citrus was king, and Clermont was its throne. The tower was an instant draw. In its early years, it attracted 500,000 visitors annually, putting it in league with Cypress Gardens and Silver Springs as one of the must-see stops on the Florida tourist circuit. For families driving south on U.S. Highway 27, long before Disney World was even conceived, this was the detour, the promise that Florida tourism and Florida agriculture could coexist. The original lobby showcased fruit stands, gift shops, and a working model of citrus production. The pitch was clear. Buy the fruit, marvel at the groves, and then tell your neighbors back home about the land of sunshine. But history intervened. A series of catastrophic freezes in the 1980s devastated the groves, driving citrus production farther south. By the 1990s, the view from the tower had changed. The groves thinned out. Developers moved in. Subdivisions and strip malls replaced the quilt of orange and grapefruit trees. Climate today and what you see is not what you would have seen back then. The tower is the same. The world it looked out over is not. And yet, there's something strangely moving about it. This once bustling attraction now stands as a living artifact, equal parts observation deck and time machine. A reminder that Florida tourism has always been about reinvention, and that even icons must adapt. The lobby today houses Citrus Coffee Company and my drink of choice, the Orange Cream Latte, a playful nod to the groves that are gone, citrus distilled into memory and flavor. Next door sits the President's Hall of Fame, another Florida curiosity. Wax figures, memorabilia, dioramas, a kind of earnest oddball Americana. Together with the tower, they stand as Clermont's twin monuments, one to what the town used to be, and one to how America sometimes remembers itself. By evening, Clermont leans into its boomtown energy. Swig, the Utah import, offers its menu of dirty sodas. I went with the Princess Peach, don't laugh. It starts with Dr. Pepper, layered with peach syrup and coconut cream. Sweet, rich, a little tropical, and I had them add some strawberry popping pearls, bright bursts of fruit with every sip. It's playful, a little ridiculous, and absolutely perfect on a hot Florida evening. And then there's White Castle, brand new, only the second in Central Florida. Now this isn't just another fast food chain opening a storefront. This is White Castle, arguably the most famous hamburger chain in America. Founded in 1921 in Wichita, Kansas, White Castle practically invented the fast food hamburger. Before McDonald's was even a gleam in the McDonald brothers' eyes, White Castle had already introduced the idea of the standardized assembly line burger. The same size every time, cooked the same way, sold in multiples. Their sliders, those square onion-steamed burgers, became a model that inspired 1,000 imitators. Ray Kroc himself studied the efficiency of the White Castle system before refining it into the McDonald's empire. In other words, without White Castle, there may not have been a McDonald's. But White Castle endured in its own lane. It became the nostalgia brand, rooted in the Midwest, beloved by generations. It showed up in pop culture, mocked, celebrated, mythologized. Those little square burgers became shorthand for craving, for indulgence, for Americana itself. The Orlando location that opened in 2021 was the largest White Castle in the world and the first in Florida in over 50 years. But it sits in the chaos of theme park sprawl, where every visit seems like navigating a gauntlet. Here in Clermont, though, the new White Castle has room to breathe. Easier access, less of a circus. And for a town that has always balanced nostalgia with reinvention, there's something fitting about adding a hamburger icon to its growing collection. A Midwest ritual, now anchored in Lake County soil. If you map out the day from farmer's market to historic village, from lemonade floats to boba shops, from the Citrus Tower to White Castle, you see a portrait of Clermont in miniature. It's both rooted and restless, a town where you can buy local honey in the morning and sip a dirty soda by nightfall, where you can look out from a tower built to honor groves that no longer exist, then walk straight into a brand new restaurant that insists the future belongs here. Clermont is booming, its population is surging, its landscape is shifting, but if you pay attention not just to the buildings but to the rituals and the choices, you see a town in the act of defining itself. Not the same Clermont it was in the 1950s, not yet the one it will be in 2050. This Sunday, it was this Clermont. You'll find the podcast on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, or whichever platform you like best. Follow there so you never miss an episode. Thanks for gallivanting with me, and wherever you go, take the story with you.